Cason, I'm sure with the regular season kind of around the corner, these days can feel like you want them to get through them as fast as possible. How do you guys kind of ground yourselves and stay in the work right now?
Knowing that it takes a lot to go through a whole season, and we're about to start it, so we want to be as sharp as possible. So staying locked in the whole practice is really key for us right now.
Didn't get to talk to you the other night, but how special was that moment with you and your brother getting to play against each other and be out there on the floor together?
It was one of the best moments of my life, really. Being able to share the court with my brother for the first time. So, and it was and on the biggest stage you could ever think of. So that was real cool.
Can you tell us, maybe some insight into his journey, kind of the way that he's scratched and clawed to get to this point in his career, and like I don't know if there's anything you take inspirationally from what he's done.
A lot of inspiration from him for sure. He stuck with it, stuck with his plan. Had highs and lows. Went to college for 4 years. Got drafted in the G League. Questioned whether or not he wanted to be there. Started a family, and you know he stuck with it. And we all wanted him to, stick with his dream, don't give up on it. And him doing that and being strong-minded got him to where he was again playing. Well, got us to where we were playing against each other. So just a lot of inspiration in that.
Growing up, did you guys dream about playing in the NBA one day?
For sure. We never could play in high school or middle school together. So for me, it was like I was 1 year off from being able to play with him at least once, But nah, that was our first time ever, so that was big.
Did you guys talk any trash to each other?
Yeah, a little bit. Uh, it wasn't much because we weren't out there, guarding each other a lot, but and neither one of us scored. So yeah.
Cason, I think this lineup started the other night with you, Alex, and Lou on the floor at the same time. I know that's been a thing in this building too. Like, what have you taken away from the time you guys share on the floor together?
I like the way we all fly around and play off each other. Um, we kind of have the same feel and instincts on the defensive end, so it makes it easier to read each other.
You had 5 steals in that game, and I know it's preseason, but are you feeling yourself processing things a little bit faster, maybe being able to anticipate plays before they happen this season?
For sure. A lot of teams run the same plays consistently, may change the name a little bit, but being out there and knowing how guys play and know their tendencies, you get a better feel for it.
Still, and then a great dunk the other day. But are we going to see more of those?
Hopefully, yeah. I hope I do. I for sure got a little more in me. It's a long season, so.
Cason, Mark was talking the other night about Chet evolving as a roller and guys also finding him more since the start of camp. Just what's that process like in terms of the reads advancing here and translating to the game, seeing him as a roller?
He's a big presence, so it's hard to miss him on a pass. Throw it up, throw it. He has good hands. He can play in the mid range. He got a deep bag, so wherever we get it to him on the court, he's a guy that makes plays and makes the right plays. So hitting him on the rolls and stuff, it'll be good for us.
Have you seen changes in the way he's trying to attack the rim this year?
He's always attacked the rim at a high level, trying to dunk on people, trying to finish at the rim. So, yes and no. He's stronger. He's getting there easier. So,
You added strength too. How are you seeing that translate in the preseason, just from year to year?
I'm able to stay in front of people better, take more bumps, be able to give some bumps. So, I'm liking where I'm at right now.
Is that helpful for you as a guy that's trying to be on the ball more, the bump part of it, just the added strength, what you can do with the ball?
Definitely. A lot of guys like the pressure, fight through screens, so it'll help me stay on my line.
Mark, with the preseason games over with, what have you seen from your team here in terms of and a focus and attention to detail, knowing they've got a lot of time here to get good work in before the regular season starts.
Yeah, it's a challenge mentally because we want to get as much mileage out of these practices as we can. We won't have a stretch of practice like this again for the rest of the season. But at the same time, the guys want to play. I think everybody's ready for the first game, so we can't sit and wait. We got to get the most out of these days and really load up and get ready to go.
How much do you balance kind of having those 5 games worth of film with just kind of like focusing on what you're able to do out here on the court?
Those are just like good check-ins on what's carrying over and what isn't. And we've made some steady progress in certain areas. But every practice is like that too. All the practices have been live in the camp. And so there's really no difference for us between the practices and the games in terms of seeing what's carrying over and what looks good.
Mark, how well have you gotten to know Alex Reese and his time here, and just what stands out to you about him?
Alex Reese was here for camp. I have a lot of respect for all those guys, him, Cormac, Malafai, Buddy, Miller. I coached in the G League for 5 years, and I learned that there's a lot of good basketball players out there that need an opportunity, and all those guys came in here. They got a lot of reps and got a lot of opportunity, and I thought they all did a really good job, including Alex.
Any updates on any of the injured guys?
No, not really. All making progress. Dub, that's an injury. He's day to day at least. Did not take reps of practice today, so we'll see how he's feeling. Continues to progress.
Mark, there were some areas that you all coming out of last year wanted to work on as a team. Some of those things Isaiah Hartenstein really excels in, but knowing you guys, you're going to be working on those as a team anyway, not using his his entry into the team as like a band-aid to that. What are some of the areas where you feel like you guys have gotten better that he would have helped with here in the early going, but you guys have gotten better as a team with sort of outside of just his arrival?
Well, anytime you add players with really good skills, it doesn't give you an excuse not to become good at those skills collectively as a team. So obviously we really like our point of attack defense. We really like our rim presence with him and Chet. But at the same time, we need those things regardless of who's on the court. Even when they're healthy, they're not going to play 48 minutes. And so we need to be good at all that stuff. And we're working on all that stuff kind of independent of personnel. And then the personnel can elevate that stuff depending on whether or not they're on the court.
Mark, you talked about how you wanted to see an uptick in volume of 2-pointers. Throughout the 5 preseason games, how would you kind of assess that?
I think they're up. So, it's not just pure volume. It's quality still. You're not going to sacrifice quality for volume. But I think a couple years ago, we were a really poor 3-point shooting team, basically on shot selection and shooting a lot of tough ones. We've improved. Last year our percentage was really, really good. The number one change that was made was selection based. It had nothing to do with anything else. We were just taking better shots. Now we need to understand that, we've got good shooters, and it doesn't have to be a perfect shot to be a good one. And so that's the bigger thing. There's not a number threshold we're trying to reach. It's just a matter of trying to know what the good ones are and take them when they're there.
Mark, I know with Shea, you said he's in the driver's seat of his own development, but with his volume and his threes that he's taking so far in the preseason, what are you seeing as far as, some of the circumstances he's catching the ball in and some of the things he's willing to shoot?
Well, he and Dub specifically, we've got multiple guys out there that can make a play, which makes them off-ball players at times. And when you're an off-ball player, you got to be ready to shoot. I think in the playoffs, no one's shot volume in the closeouts went down more than those two guys of anybody on our team from regular season to playoffs last year. And so those guys, understanding the same concept I just mentioned to Clemente is important. And then also those guys shooting it off the dribble, they're such a threat to drive. I think your instinct when you play against them is to gap them a little bit. And if a team's going to gap them, they're both good enough shooters off the dribble to take those shots. And so that's what we've encouraged them to do tactically. Although I don't, it's not a video game. I don't micromanage shot to shot. But as a general philosophy, that is something that we have talked about with both of those guys.
I don't know how much film from last season you're looking at by now, but has Dallas been like a constant reference point for some of that stuff you want to see?
Not just Dallas, New Orleans too. I think we spent a lot of time on that in the offseason, as well as our elevated regular season games. I wouldn't even limit it just to those two teams because had we played 2 different teams in 2 different playoff series, we probably would have had different takeaways. So you don't want to overcorrect we're not going to play 82 games against Dallas this year. We're going to play a full regular season, but we do check in on those games to make sure that what we're doing is relevant. We actually just did a film session this morning as a coaching staff where we were watching playoff clips of ourselves to make sure that if there's anything that's relevant in those games, that we're covering it now, so that we're building the requisite habits to, get back to the playoffs. So,
Mark, if Chet ends up having more playmaking opportunities, put the ball on the deck, that kind of thing, what are going to be some indicators for you of, things going well regardless of what the outcomes are on given possessions? Because obviously it seems like that's a skill that he can continue to scale with and could help elevate the ceiling of the team too.
yeah, I mean, with all those guys with creating, it's more about their ability to do it inside of the system, and that's really all that we've done so far. I mean, we will use some sets to try to generate advantages, but once we get an advantage on a possession, it becomes about maintaining that advantage and finishing that advantage. And he's obviously a really good shooter. He's also multidimensional. He can drive and finish. He can roll. And he's done a nice job of finding that stuff in the flow of what we're doing. We haven't upticked, the buttons that we're pushing for anybody, and if anything, we've downticked that in the preseason, and we're more trying to encourage these guys to find their strengths inside of what we're doing, and everyone's done a really good job of that so far.
So just in a similar way, quick decisions on pass, shoot, drive, not over dribbling, those kind of things. Are those the things that you'll be looking for if he's, playing off the catch and that kind of thing?
Yeah, quick decisions, good floor spacing, finding his cuts, good in the pick and roll game. He's obviously in a lot of pick and rolls. He's a big target. Joel mentioned that after the game the other night, that we've been finding him. That's important, but it's important that he gets below the defense on those plays so that he can be there for us. But yeah, right now, this early in the season, it's more about the fundamentals of the system. And like I've said before, you can't hold a talent back. If a guy's good, he's going to be good no matter what situation you put him in. Chet's in that category. And so we're really just trying to encourage him to play inside of what we're doing, and he's finding plenty within that.